So this in front is the dairy facility. Coming out is the cows that have been milked for the day. And they will just go back to the field and eat all day.
Else we're changing in 2 weeks, so it'll be even different than it is now. But this is a 12 on a side milking parlor. This technology is probably 50, 60 years old. It's nothing extremely modern. I guess the modern attachments would be when you have the vacuum milkers popped on, it tells what each cow produces in a digital screen. So you understand milk production. As soon as the milk goes to a trickle or stops, they pop off automatically. There's no pain for the cows. People say, well, why do they come here? 2 reasons. They enjoy routine and they need to be milked. You ruined my punchline. I was going to tell everyone now we're going to go to the slaughterhouse. Put on your mask, close your eyes, and just do it.
It's kind of cool, huh? They almost do it themselves.
They do.
How many people work in these?
This is amazing.
I think total on these properties we have about 24 employees, and a lot of people are multitasking. So if you look to the right, those are our tanks where we culture. There's a low temperature pasteurization tank at the back.
I just really want to
That
grab one
red
of the
chemical that
bells
says
and then just start
Rollins on
drinking.
it is a liquefier. Any added ingredient goes in there to get dispersed to all the tanks to create flavors and varieties. To the left is our bottling line. We can bottle 100 bottles of Suero Viv a minute and 90 bottles of Amasai a minute.
So does that stuff ship straight out of here?
Nope.
No, it's still
I
shipped
think we probably have some in-process pallets. This all goes to Kansas City. Everything here is computerized. So if you look at the very back, you can see computer controls. It's amazing how we're able to do something that is a very old world process, but do it in a very modern way.
Are you able to pass the Amasai? Is that only pasteurized to 101 degrees?
No, 145 degrees. Sorry, yeah, 145
You
degrees.
have to heat that up more.
145 degrees is minimum, but you have to do it for 30 minutes. That's why we say it takes us 180 times longer. If you pasteurize at 180, you can do it for 10 seconds. But the higher you go, the more destructive the process is.
Hey, they make it.
One thing that you all should know is that traditional yogurt that is called cup set yogurt is actually the warm milk is put into the plastic and it is cultured in the plastic. And whether it's BPA free or not, if plastic is heated like that and there's microbial activity, not a good thing. So we do all of our culturing in the vats, and by the time it's bottled, it is cool. So there's no activity that goes on, no alchemy, no extraction of any plasticizers, etc., which is important.
How much nutrients do you think you retain by doing the slow heat process in pasteurization up to 145 compared to going to 180?
I don't think it's the nutrients as much as some of the microbial activity that we retain. So
Okay.
there's an argument for both. We think that higher temperature pasteurization scalds the milk and causes the proteins to be denatured, which changes their structure. We think that this temperature is the best way to keep it the way we need to keep it.
Picture of the cheese wheels.
No, I'll get to that in just a second. Okay, so if you look at the silver tanks, the milk immediately flows into those from the milking, and we add certain cultures, and in 4 hours the curdling process has taken place. The curds at the top, the whey's at the bottom. The whey gets pumped to that back right where there's a cannon looking device, and that is our whey separator, where we separate the whey from the residual fat, goes into that tank in the back to become Suero. The cheese is made two different ways. There's salted curd, which would be cheddar, and there's brined cheese, which would be Jack or Havarti. Once the cheese is either salted or it is just curdled and unsalted, it is pressed in those molds, becomes wheels, and is either put into aging, which you'll see if it's cheddar, or it is put into the brine tank, which is kind of like the Dead Sea. It's about 30% salinity. That's why they're floating, because they're very, very heavy. And that's how they absorb their salt. The other way we make cheese is cheddar curds. Those are not pressed into rinds or molds. At least they're not completely pressed. And once they are in there, after the cheddaring process, they are vacuum bagged, and you still need to age a little bit, but then that is sort of the freshest cheese, meaning the least amount of aging and the most similarity to a straight raw milk. Our cheese is only heated to 101 degrees, which is cow body temperature. Legally, you can say raw and be up to 144 degrees. They do that because it lowers microbial count and it makes a more uniform taste and texture. We'll talk why in a moment. Cheese is really the ultimate expression of a healthy environment and how we need to view it differently than maybe a guilty pleasure. We have a lot of cheese.
Oh, wow.
I'll explain all about it.
Unbelievable. That's a lot of cheese.
How much do you think one of those blocks weighs?
I don't know.
Oh.
Ask Jordan. How much does one of the round blocks weigh?
They vary, but the bigger blocks are around 40 pounds. Yes. The cheese that we make is natural rind cheese, which means the wheels that you saw that were floating, they're put in here, and the organisms in the air, the yeast and the mold, suck in the oxygen and create a layer that protects the interior cheese from oxygen, because oxygenation oxidizes and will cause the cheese to go rancid. This rind is what I believe to be the epitome of a natural microbiological system. So I feed the rinds to my chickens. That's why the area smells so bad. Some of you complain about the rind, but if you knew what the rind was, you'd be ordering the rind instead of the cheese. When you pull the rind apart, it's all milk. That's all it is. Milk and all these organisms, probiotics, and the exact capturing of what the environment was that very day. Does anyone know why cheese was invented? Cheese was invented because in a grassland environment, about 70% of the forage or pasture grows in the spring, 20% or so in the fall, and 10% the rest of the year. So no matter how big or small your cow herd is, unless you allow it to swell and then shrink, which you could, there's too much grass in the spring, not enough other times, and zero in the winter. Cheese was made to store milk. My grandmother grew up in Poland, and she had no dairy in the winter except cheese, and she had no vegetables except sauerkraut. Cheese is suspended animation milk, and 1 ounce gives you most of the nutrients in 1 glass of milk. So cheese can really be considered a supplement. If you look at the landscape of supplements out there, and I'm not saying that none of them are good, many are good, but the amount of nutrition and value you get out of a supplement and the digestibility and the way that it works in your body pales in comparison to something that in 1 ounce can give you 6 to 7 grams of protein, a few hundred milligrams of omega-3 fats, CLA, vitamin K2, 250 milligrams of calcium, which can't even fit in 1 capsule, plus 1 full serving of probiotics. Now, you may or may not know, but I resigned from Garden of Life in August after 15 or so years. And I felt that I needed to do that. Prior to that, and really, I guess in the near future, I was being very careful how I categorize the products we have here versus what is available at Garden of Life. And I can now say that 1 ounce of our cheese has 10 times the probiotics of
a capsule of our Primal Defense, which is, and it's almost a similar probiotic. It's very similar probiotic. So this is not just raw, green-fed, beta-casein A1 free. It's not just natural rind. It's not just all of the other things that it is. In addition, we add a powerful probiotic that withstands heat, that's clinically studied, and essentially every bite of cheese is a supplement.